started here in just a second. Hope everybody's having a great Sunday. I'm trying to take my sweater off. It's a little too warm in here. Alright, so before we get started, I just want to remind everybody about the Hell Meet coming up June 6th through 8th in Helen, Georgia. It's going to be a lot of 944s out there, so I hope to see you there. Got a tripod here. Let's see if I set it up. We will see. Okay, I think I got it. Lock that there, and lock this over here. Should have had this set up before, but kind of ran out of time this morning. So, see how this works out. See what we can and can't see with it adjusted right there. So I'll bring this over here a little bit. All right, guys, got a few of you in here. Hopefully you're having a great Sunday. It's nice weather here, a little bit chilly, but we're here at the shop, and as usual, we'll get started with any questions that you have. I was out last week. I was out of town, but back this week and should be back for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully this angle works. I'll keep adjusting it as we go, but once I get it set, maybe we'll have it. All right, so you can see we've got this beautiful 1986 944 turbo behind us. Let's get that off the screen. John says, hope you've been well. I sure have. I was just out of town last weekend. And Kevin says, good morning, Brent. Well, good morning to you. And today we're going to kind of be looking at this car. And if anything else you guys want to see, but this has been a very interesting car. So a little history on this car was that it was running and driving, but it had a fire up here next to the battery terminals, and the owner had fixed that, but afterwards it wouldn't start. But for good measure, he not only replaced these wires up here, but he replaced the engine harness. So I won't go into details about the engine harness. It was an aftermarket harness, but yeah, it's a brand new harness, and he brought it to us, and usually with a no start condition, have these done a couple of hours. But kept running into some interesting things on this car. But Mark says good morning. John also says good morning. Well, good morning, guys, or good afternoon, wherever you are. And so yeah, we've gone in and replaced all the wiring, but we still didn't know what caused the fire. So I didn't know whether the fire was caused by whatever starting the no start condition on this car, or perhaps the fire is what caused the no start condition on this car. It was not really clear. But usually a no start condition is DME relay, sensors or sensor gap, bad wiring at the sensors. But this one was pretty interesting, so I thought you guys might like to see it. First thing I kind of mentioned to the owner was like, it could be that wiring harness. It's a long shot, but it could be the wiring harness. But we went through and ran some tests. We pinned everything out. The wiring harness seemed to be okay, and he has a Focus 9 computer, and I like these, and I could go in and see whether the sensors were getting a good reading. I kept getting some weird readings from the sensors, but everything seemed to be working okay, but I couldn't get spark. I had a little bit of pulse from the injectors. It was a lot less than what it should have been. So I started at the sensors. I have a bunch of sensors laying around. Swapped in some different sensors. Still couldn't get that reading right. Decided that I would try and look and see if the stud was even still there for the reference sensor. Surely the teeth on the starter ring is still there. Checked that, everything was fine. Moved the sensors down closer, removed the spacer, did all sorts of stuff just to see if I could get that reading to clear up. Put an oscilloscope on there. Couldn't get that to work right either. Everything was coming back just a little odd. So I took a spare DME and I didn't get the spare KLR out yet, but stuck all those in spare cars, started up, ran. But when I put his Focus 9 in there, it didn't spark. So I was like, okay, maybe something's going on here. So we decided to go with another harness. But at the time I tested the harness, I was using the Focus 9 DME because, again, I've got my laptop plugged into it, and everything appears to be just fine. Still had weird readings on the sensors, and I still didn't have spark. So I ruled out the harness, pinned out the harness. I was like, okay, now we need to focus on what maybe caused this fire, because now the coil wire is getting hot. He had told me that it was, but it hadn't presented itself yet. So I go to get in, I hook up the battery, I go to get in the car, and I see smoke coming off the coil. I'm like, okay, well, that's not good. So remove the battery terminal. At that point, I'm like, let's dig into the fuse box. Maybe this fire. We also kind of had a feeling that maybe the alternator regulator had gone out, and maybe that's what caused the fire. Maybe it's something totally unrelated to this. But at that point, I'm kind of like, it doesn't hurt to go in and check the fuse box. So pulled the fuse box out, checked every single thing. I tore that whole thing apart, just looking for something, because I can't find anything in the harness. I can't find anything in the sensors, although I'm getting some weird readings from them. Doesn't make any sense. So I decided to jump the KLR just for the heck of it, because everything seemed to be working fine. I swapped in other KLRs, still didn't have spark, and I knew this KLRs worked, so I decided to jump it, and now I finally had spark. But I also noticed something odd, that though I had spark, I had to use the spare DME, it was getting warm. So after the fuse box was ruled out, I was like, okay, maybe there's something wrong with this new harness and the KLR wiring. Pinned out everything on the KLR, checked it, the wiring harness that is, but I still could not get spark. So I decided to go back again, try another harness, plug everything in with a spare DME this time, and KLR, and finally we got the car to where to run now. So that was a very interesting thing. We have a harness here, it's brand new. It pins out perfectly fine, but for some reason we're getting some really weird readings on the sensors, and we cannot get spark with it. And you plug the DME in, it gets hot, and it will not spark with the KLR in there. You have to jump the KLR to get it to even do anything. And then at that point you can't drive the car, because you have no input from the throttle position sensor and stuff. So you could get it to run, but that'd be the end of it, and you still have the possibility of the coil wire getting hot and melting and stuff. But try and get my thumb out of your face there. But yeah, Stuff keeps popping up on the screen. So anyway, that has been a very long rundown of a no start condition. It could have been solved if I would have just put the harness on there the first time with a spare DME, but everything that I had was telling me, you know, plugging the computer in there and reading the stuff from the oscilloscope. Everything was telling me that Focus 9 computer was still good. So my theory is that there's something wrong with that new harness. It's possibly damaged that F9 DME, and the only way we're going to get this sorted out is to replace that harness and get that repaired. So that took a lot longer than expected, but anyway, guys, we finally got it, but at this point we've still got to go in and replace that harness. I still don't know what's up with that harness, but Jeffrey says, just bought a U6R housing with a later 8286 OPRB. What is the best way to clean and scale the inside the fin cooler insert? If it's really bad in there, then I would definitely not try and touch it. You can degrease it, and but if it's corroded or something, I would definitely check it for leaks too. I had a car one time that came in with a blown engine, and we rebuilt the engine, and I had a bunch of one of those oil coolers laying around, and for some reason that one ended up right back in the engine, and it was blown. So this immediately just put coolant right back into the oil. Had to get that cleaned out again and then replace it. So if you're concerned that it's kind of rusty or something, I would have it pressure tested, maybe even just use some degreaser and water to kind of, but you're gonna want to make sure that if you put anything in there, you got to get it all out. So I would just clean it externally if you can, make sure any dirt gets out of there, because you don't want to send it through the engine. But yeah, just kind of clean it up the best you can. I would figure out a way to pressure test it. The way we do it is we have a coolant pressure tester, and we have a rig or a jig to kind of use that, and we pressure test that now. So every time we get a unknown oil cooler, then we pressure test it. Alright guys, as you see, this is a beautiful car. Unfortunately, that fire did damage the hood a little bit, but once we get it running again, the owner can take that and get that fixed, I'm pretty sure, easily. John says, just to say many thanks for the advice, and a few weeks ago I thought I would share good news. My 944 is back online, and sorry, if I stand in front of the screen I can see the text better. Let's try that, my darker shirt. Who thought of putting this on a clear background? My 944 back online and now perfect. Also gained some horsepower. The car is running lovely. Well, awesome. I'm glad that you got it back. Another thing that I could probably do is put on my glasses. I am on my phone and it is very tiny text. I actually read better when I'm way back here for some reason, but if I get close I can't see anything. Getting old, but I'm glad to hear your car is online, back online and running. I remember you saying something about it. Can you go into more detail? I remember that you tore it apart and you went in and I think you had a weird idle or something, and you went in and cleaned the, I think you took the intake off, then you took the throttle body and stuff, and then I told you just to trust the process. So with the 944S's, I was explaining to him, so if you guys don't know, on the 944S's you don't have any way of really adjusting. Say corrected all that. You don't really have a way to adjust the idle on those. So if you go in and rebuild everything, usually if you're having a rough idle or something, you've got something going on with a vacuum leak. It could be even small inside the throttle body itself. So you got to just kind of go in and clean everything up that you can, put it all back together, tighten it up, and just trust the process. Like, I would say 99% of the time we get an S in here, has a weird idle. We just have to take it apart, clean everything in the intake system, and change all the gaskets, and tighten it down better than when it came in, and fix all the vacuum lines, and it works perfect. Sometimes you just can't put your finger exactly on what's going on with the S's, but there's no way to adjust the idle, so it works that way on regular cars, NAs too, but all right, I think we're done with the tripod here. I just wanted you guys to see the car while I was actually explaining everything. But I'm glad that you got the idle fixed. Sometimes it's very hard to put your finger on what could be causing it. There we go. Oh, I can see a little bit better now. These are my shop glasses. These are just some cheap readers that I got for the shop when I have to look at wiring schematics. But I tell you, I had to go through this entire system from one end to the other. I had to make sure that whatever caused this fire here wasn't because something was in the fuse box touching, or perhaps it didn't damage something in the fuse box. So Dennis asks, any thoughts on why 951 cylinders seem to be prone to scoring, especially in cylinders 2 and 3? It's not just 944 turbos, but I've mentioned this in other live streams before. So why it seems to be more 944 turbos is because they love to put those K&N filters on there. And these are very soft aluminum walls. I'm not saying that that's what it is, but it seems to correlation isn't causation, and so on and so forth. But every time I see scored cylinders, it's got a K&N air filter on it. If I see it on an NA, it's got a K&N air filter on it. Who's going to pull them out once a week to oil them up, and then they turn black, and yeah, not fun. I'm not saying one's related to the other, but it's just awful funny. Every time I see that, it's got a K&N air filter on there. Now, that's another reason why we sleeve these cylinders, and especially on turbos, we sleeve them, because then at that point it's just a steel engine basically, so you can handle a lot more particulates getting into the cylinders and not causing that. But I have plenty of NA engines that have lots of scoring in there. So, this was a old 1930s engine without an air filter on it. You just changed the oil a lot, like you were supposed to back then, to get anything out of there, and they could kind of hold up to dirt roads and stuff. But these aluminum engines, they don't like any kind of dirt whatsoever. And you got to think, on an NA, the air box is so huge that you really aren't going to get any more air. You're better off with a pleated paper filter. But yeah, that's typically what I see. I came over here for a reason. Someone organized my books. I had planned to build a new shelf like a year ago and finally put my books on there. But yeah, someone cleaned this up for me. We're gonna get the electrics book out. I don't know how that got put up, but we went through every single thing. I now know the electrical system of 944 Turbo a lot more intimately than I would have ever liked. But I wanted to make sure that whatever caused the fire wasn't still there, and also wanted to make sure that it couldn't catch fire again. So best guess at this point is that we're not going to know until we get this car running. Like, I know it'll start now once we swap out the harness and we get it won't run right now because I've got to have that particular computer fixed. But I know it'll run. I know it will start once all that's fixed and put back together. But once that's done, we can see if the voltage regulator and the alternator's pushing out too many volts and amps, and see if that caused the fire. It could have also just been a bare wire up underneath the hood that arced out on the hood and caused it. It happens. But I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't in the electrical system causing that. Let's see. Does anybody have anything interesting they're working on? Kevin asked, are you excited that 944 Fest will be at VIR this year? Actually, yeah, I kind of like that for many reasons. One, I'll be able to bring my wife because it's basically in our backyard, and I'm not going to camp this year. The second part of that is VIR is a great track, so she's going to be driving on the track. I'm not. I'm going to be just kind of hanging out. I like to go and just hang out with people. So what I'm doing now is I'm just trying to find some pages in these wiring diagrams. So if you guys are interested in seeing how to go through it, but yeah, I like VIR a lot. But it'd be nice not to have to drive 8 hours to Ohio. So. But speaking of fest, don't forget that I mentioned it at the top of the show, but we're having the Helen Meet June 6th through 8th. So don't forget that, guys. If you weren't here and you didn't hear it, you just tuned in live, then be sure to check that out. We've got about 30 people signed up so far. I just checked last night. Looks like around 30 people. Now, whether that correlates to cars or not, you know, more people sign up than actually arrive. But Jason says he's trying to solve a really rough idle at cold start on my 951. Give me a little bit more detail on that. So it goes away once it's warmed up? Or is it just low RPM, or kind of sputtering? So there might be a lot of reasons why that's occurring. A lot less than on the modern car, but a lot on these older cars. You could have something loose in the vacuum system. I think not too long ago, a guy came in with something similar to that, and he was telling me that he shook one of the boost hoses and it was so loose. Dennis says he's prepping for a motor rebuild. Yeah. I was gonna actually text you about that a little bit later too. So Kenneth says have to change out the coolant tank. Also check out the rough idle and cold start for 2 minutes. If you're having a rough, yeah. So if you guys are having a rough cold start, I would start with the vacuum lines. Jeffrey says, can I use the old 5R housing and Fend oil cooler insert, both in nice shape with no scale, with one piece, and skip the 6R housing? So the thing is, you really want the 6R housing, but you can put the fins from the oil cooler fins in there, the oil cooler itself, in the 6R housing, so that's interchangeable. The reason why you want to go with the 6R is it's a much better design, and you have the shims and stuff to actually get it to where it'll sit in there straight. I've not really heard a lot of people having issues with using the 5R housings, but you got to watch out. You can't use that plastic spacer if you're using the 5R housing, so that will set you up for failure. So everything that you buy with the kits are set up for the 6R housing, so you have to make sure that you leave that part off. But I would definitely recommend, if you got the 6R housing, go with it. There's a reason why Porsche wanted everybody to throw it in the trash, but definitely, if one's cleaner, then go with that one. Jason says low RPM goes away when warm or starts fine on days that are 80 degrees or higher. DME temp sensor with block. Temp at 53 degrees is 3,500 ohms. Right off the top of my head, I can't say whether that's good or bad. I'd have to look up the there's a range there, and I'm not sure. But if it starts, that's an interesting one. It could be a small vacuum leak somewhere, but for it to start up, if it's 80 degrees or higher, that's kind of, is it hard to start? That would make that would kind of make more sense. I think that your temp sensor is probably fine if it starts right up, even on a cold engine on a warm day. But be doing that when it's cold could be a number of things. Make sure your wiring's good. The wiring is the number one culprit of all this stuff. But check for vacuum leaks, even so small ones. Make sure that your set screw for your idle's done right. If it's too far out, it'll cause weird stuff like that to happen too. Very hard to say, but with an NA and a turbo, I guess both, they're definitely very susceptible to issues cold starting, but it tends to go away when it's warm. So I would look at the vacuum system. On a turbo, you can pressurize it with today just about every single compressor that you buy, like this one here, they have the turn this up. Oh, it's right. That's what I thought I left my fan on in the bathroom, but I left the heat on. Okay, so what's that noise? So most of them have the regulator built into them now, so you don't have to buy one and put it on. Set it down to about 5 psi and blow it through there. I want to say I made a video on that, but maybe I never did. But I'll get you one of these if I can get over there. Got a lot of mess in here. So this is how we test pressure on turbos. We take this. This is a pipe fitting with a little adapter on it for air compressor, and then we stick it right in here, just like that, and we connect that, put about 5 psi in there and let it sit, and then just watch to see if it leaks down. You'll see it on your compressor output over there with the gauge, and just watch that. start there. See if that's within range. You know, look at that 3,500 ohms and see if that's within range. It should be on Clark's garage. I'd have to look, but most of the time, if the car starts up at all, it's not going to be the sensor. It could be a wiring issue with the sensor, but that's kind of most of the time. If a wire breaks, then you can end up with like weird stuff. But when they ohm out, your car will not start at all. So if the two wires end up breaking and twisting together, and the computer sees a reading of no resistance between the wires, then that thing will just, it'll start warm just fine, but it will not start cold at all. I put my glasses down because I was like, I look ridiculous, and then I put them down right as I was getting ready. Okay, my 5-hour drive to Ohio has turned into 11 now. Oh no, but I'm still stoked. Are you staying at the places located on the track nearby a hotel? Check my calendar and see if I can make it to Helen. Awesome. Yes, we are staying at the lodges that are right there beside the track at VIR. Dennis replied to Kevin and said, I booked a room at the lodge at VIR track. Late August will be steamy and short AC breaks will be a welcome benefit. Exactly. Yeah, when we were there in 2016, it was extremely hot. I camped out and it's just a bunch of rocks here. It felt like we were camping straight on gravel, and I had an air mattress, but you know, they go down in the middle of the night. And then Jeffrey says, what's the best way to clean and scale the 6R inside the cooler and cylinder walls where the O-ring seat on the cylinders? So, I would probably just replace that housing. If it's so bad that it's scaled up really badly, I would just probably source out another 6R housing, unfortunately, because you get the messing around in there and sanding stuff, then you know that O-ring's not going to want to seat exactly right. I mean, you might be able to do it delicate enough, but it's not the way I'd want to find out that it screwed it up. So if you need one, just let me know. I might have a few laying around, or you see if 944 Barnes got some. But yeah, if it's scaled up pretty bad in there, I would steer away from it, but definitely go with the 6R housing. And NC944 says, Clark says the sensor should be at 59 degrees, approximately 3.3 thousand ohms, so that's pretty close to spec. Yeah, I was thinking that. Sounds about right, but I can't remember off the top of my head all that stuff. There's a bunch of variables and all that stuff. You got to know the exact temperature outside pretty much to know what range that's going to fall in. But it sounded like that sensor's probably fine. And a good way of knowing that your sensor's probably fine is that it starts up at all. When those sensors go out, you're not going to get anything. You would have a no start condition, at least while the engine's cold. So if you start it somewhere, you drive it to the store and it fails, then you come out 30 minutes later, the car might start up, but it wouldn't start the next day, or it'd be very hard to start the next day when these sensors go out, because basically they're just looking for the enrichment map. So the fact that it starts at all just kind of tells me you've got some sort of, maybe some leak in the vacuum system somewhere. I tell you, I had a very long start time on one of my cars one time. So I would turn the engine over, and I know you got an idle issue, but I had a very long crank time, and my car never took long to crank. But I just replaced or had the injectors cleaned, and when I got them back, that's when a very long time to crank occurred. And it would probably take 3 or 4 times for it to go around. Ended up being that one of the O-rings on the injectors was just kind of boogered, and replaced that, and the car went back to firing right up. I mean, it's just the smallest things on these cars sometimes. I know one time when I got my car back from a shop years ago. So this is back before I was working on them. Well, I was working on them, but I didn't have time to mess with it. I sent it over to a shop and I got it back, and the hose for the air oil separator was off, and so that thing just, you could barely keep it running. And then sounds like a 944 just pulled up here. No, that's my wife. So yeah, it was hard to start. Once I got it started, it was very rough idle. Hey, I'm live streaming. She knows what time it is.
I forgot. The library doesn't get one until another unit.
What is the point of the cap and O-ring at the back of the upper balance shaft? You're talking about the cap at the very back of the engine there? Like, pick up a drink outside. Nice to have a drink sometimes when you're talking a lot. So I imagine you're talking about this here. Ooh, right there. Yeah, the one that gets loose. So that was so they could line bore it from the factory. So basically they would have everything. They would put the two halves together and line bore it, and they could go straight through that, and then they just put a cap on it. Yeah, it's they could have done better with the design, I agree. You put the seal in there, and the seal is not as wide as the cap, and so as it dries out, then it just gets hot, and over the years it just makes it flop in and out. So we have ways of doing that here. We don't add like a bunch of seals to it. Like somebody come up with a solution called the Krabby Patty, but I wasn't very happy with that because that eventually failed on us too. So now we just we have a special O-ring that goes in there and stops that from happening. All right, blast is off. Can't see you, but you can see me a little bit better. But yeah, that's basically the purpose of that, so that way they could line bore it, and then they just put a cap in there. But if they'd made the gap a little bit narrower, and then they changed it over the years, so I think the 87 later has a little bit of a different design. I'm not sure it's a better design, but it uses a different O-ring as well. Stop that. Just I'll go out, but bring my glasses, so if you guys text anything, I can read it. So I had to stuff it with Permatex for now and do it properly. So the bottom balance shaft has the same cap on it, and they always leak, especially being down there next to the exhaust. And sometimes, you know, it's just, I'm always one of those that I want to do everything perfect and do it right. But sometimes it's like, is it really worth pulling half the freaking engine apart to go in there and replace that O-ring? And so yeah, sometimes you just have to say, hey, look, this is what we're going to do, and it works fine. And I know guys out there that have Permatex, like they just took it and wiped it on there, and it's lasted 15 years. So sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. It's just the seal that leaks. So, so we got a new car in here. I believe it was might have been Wednesday, Thursday. So this is an 89 S2. Well, 2.7. It's an 89, not an S2, a 2.7. So I meant to say. Beautiful color, Prussian blue. I just keep getting alerts because I'm standing in front of an outside camera. I can see if there's anything else. Are you guys still there? I might have wandered too far away from the Yes, I was gonna ask you guys if you wanted to see something a little bit different today. None of the 944 is a cabriolet though. This is the 911 cabriolet. That's a 2019. My wife's inside job taking over, so she's gonna do everything that I had to do today. We'll see how that goes. So figured I'd go outside. Are you gonna do my work today? You're here hanging out. I'm gonna put you to work. Oh no, we're gonna. Oh no.
I took my nails off, so I can.
Okay, well, put some gloves on and get to work.
Okay.
That's a 2019. $43 minutes so far. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this 944 Turbo with us. And if you don't have any more questions, then we'll go ahead and end this. And I'll get back to work. But hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget the Helen Meet, June 6th through 8th. And hopefully I'll see you then for a go. Kenneth asked how many cars are at the shop. Sometimes we have, and I haven't counted lately, but we usually have around 15 of them. But Jack of all trades says, Brent, yeah. A good afternoon, and hopefully you guys have a great Sunday, and we will see you again next week with another live stream. Maybe we'll have something else we can look at, and hopefully you guys can join us at Helen, and we'll see you again soon.